Ladies and gentlemen, before the day begins and the world tries to push you in every direction, there's one thing you've got to do. Before you step out, before you answer that first call or send that first message, start your morning in God's protection. Gratitude is the most powerful way to start your day because it shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's already been given. It's so easy to wake up and let your mind start racing, thinking of tasks, obligations, and worries waiting on the other side of the morning. But before any of that, take a moment and just breathe. Breathe in the awareness that you're alive, here in this moment. So many people didn't have that chance this morning, but you did. That alone is worth a quiet moment of thanks. When we wake up, we're often thinking about what we need, what we want, and what we don't have yet. We're drawn into this cycle of seeking. But gratitude is the opposite. It's about seeing, recognizing what's already right here. Think of it as taking inventory of the gifts that already surround you. The bed you just got out of, the roof over your head, the clean water to drink, the ability to get up, walk, and breathe without pain. Each of these things is a blessing, often overlooked in the rush of everyday life. There's something transformative that happens when we start noticing these small things with a sense of appreciation. It could be the quiet of the early morning, the sunlight filtering through the curtains, or even the smell of that first cup of coffee. These aren't just trivial details, they're moments of grace, reminders of the beauty and simplicity. When we let ourselves savor them, we create a foundation of joy that can last all day. Gratitude doesn't demand a grand gesture, it asks only for awareness, for a shift in how we see the world. Think about the people in your life. Who comes to mind first? A friend, a partner, a family member? Pause and think of the ways they enrich your life, the ways they've been there in both good and challenging times. So often we take these relationships for granted, expecting support, love, and kindness as if they're guaranteed. But they aren't. Every day that we have someone by our side, someone who cares about us, that's a reason to give thanks. That's a gift that isn't promised but is freely given. Our bodies, too, are worthy of gratitude. Every heartbeat, every breath, every blink of the eye is part of an intricate system working tirelessly to keep us going. Too often, we criticize our bodies for not looking a certain way or for not being as strong, as youthful, as perfect as we wish. But instead of focusing on the limitations, we can choose to focus on its resilience, its strength, and its endurance. This body has carried us through everything life has thrown at us, and that alone is worth 1,000 thank yous. Gratitude doesn't end with what's easy to see. Sometimes it requires looking into our struggles, our pain, and our hardships. It seems contradictory. Why should we feel grateful for these? Yet it's in those moments of difficulty that we find our inner strength, where we learn who we truly are and what we're capable of enduring. Those hardships may not be pleasant, but they shape us, they deepen our compassion, they make us more resilient. When we look at them through the lens of gratitude, we see them not just as trials, but as teachers. Nature itself is a source of gratitude. When we take a moment to notice the world around us, we realize the abundance we're surrounded by every day. The sky, the trees, the air, all of these things support us without asking for anything in return. The world is filled with beauty, if we have eyes to see it. Each sunrise is a reminder that we have another chance, that light always returns, even after the darkest night. Gratitude also teaches us to be present. When we're truly thankful, we're no longer thinking about the past or the future, we're fully engaged in the now. This moment is the only one guaranteed to us, and by living in it with a grateful heart, we let go of anxieties about what was or what might be. We realize that right now we have enough. Right now we are enough. By cultivating gratitude, we train ourselves to look for what's good, to focus on what's working. Life will always bring challenges and setbacks, but when we build a habit of gratitude, we're creating a mindset that can find silver linings even in the clouds. Gratitude isn't about ignoring difficulties, it's about embracing the good alongside them. It's about acknowledging that life is complex, And even in its messiness, there's so much worth appreciating. Remember that gratitude is a choice. It's easy to overlook, to get wrapped up in the busyness and the chaos. But when we make the conscious choice to begin our day with a thankful heart, we're setting the tone. We're saying, I choose to see the good no matter what today may bring. This choice made every morning empowers us to live more fully, with a sense of peace and purpose. Seeking God's presence early each morning is like laying down the foundation for the day. Before anything else begins to pull at you, this is the time to center yourself, to ground your spirit. In the stillness of the morning, when the world is quiet and your mind hasn't yet filled with the day's demands, that's the perfect moment to open your heart to Him. This isn't just a ritual, it's a way to prepare yourself, to strengthen yourself from within. You're choosing to place your life in His hands before anything else takes hold of you. In those early hours, there's something profound about being alone with God. It's a chance to listen, to wait, and to let Him speak into your heart. So often, we're busy with prayers that are full of words, our requests, our needs, our fears. But when we come to Him first thing in the morning, we can simply be present. In that silence, we find space to hear God's voice, to feel His guidance. There's no hurry, no agenda, just an openness to whatever He might be whispering to our souls. There's a unique clarity that comes with morning prayer. The mind is fresh, not yet cluttered with the noise and worries of the day. This clarity allows us to connect with God on a deeper level, to invite Him into every part of our lives. By coming to Him first, we're setting the tone for how we want to live, not in reaction to the world, but in alignment with His purpose. This early connection becomes a compass, pointing us toward the things that truly matter. Spending this time with God also allows us to surrender our plans and ambitions, to let go of our need to control every detail. When we seek Him first, we're reminded that there's a greater plan at work, one that doesn't rely solely on our own efforts. We may have plans, but in His presence, we remember that He is the one who holds tomorrow. In surrendering to that, we gain a sense of peace that's hard to find anywhere else. Starting the day in God's presence is like wrapping yourself in a shield. Life will throw challenges your way, people will test your patience, and unexpected events will arise. But when you begin with God, you carry a calmness, a centeredness that protects you. You know that whatever comes, you're not facing it alone. You've already placed your day, your steps, and your actions in His care, and that gives you a resilience that nothing else can provide. This practice also strengthens our faith. By seeking Him first, we're building a relationship that isn't based on our needs alone. We're showing that we value His companionship, that we want Him involved in every part of our lives. This consistency, this morning ritual, slowly builds trust and familiarity. Each day, it reinforces the belief that He is present, He is listening, and He is active in our lives. The morning is also a time for gratitude and reflection. When we seek God's presence, we're reminded of all He's done for us. We start to see how He's been working in ways we may not have noticed before. This sense of awareness makes it easier to recognize His hand in both the big and small moments of our day. By acknowledging His role, we become more attuned to His presence throughout our lives. In this time with God, we can find strength to be patient, kind, and forgiving. Life often tests these virtues, and sometimes it's hard to show them on our own. But when we seek Him in the morning, He fills us with what we need to be our best selves. We're no longer operating on empty, we're drawing from a well of divine love and wisdom. This daily filling equips us to approach others with grace, to respond rather than react. Seeking God's presence in the morning also allows us to release our burdens. Many of us carry worries, anxieties, and unresolved issues that weigh on us. But in His presence, we're reminded that we don't have to carry these alone. We can lay down our burdens, trusting that He will give us the strength and wisdom to handle them. This act of release lightens our hearts, giving us the freedom to face the day unburdened. When we seek God first, we're opening ourselves up to His guidance and direction. The day is full of decisions, big and small, and we can't always see the best path forward. but in His presence, we find clarity. We may not know what the day will bring, but by seeking Him, we align our will with His. We invite His wisdom to lead us, to help us walk in a way that honors Him and brings peace to our hearts. Relying on God's strength is a choice, a shift from depending on ourselves to trusting in something far greater. Our own strength, as determined as we may feel, has its limits. We get tired, we get discouraged, and sometimes, despite our best efforts, we fall short. When we rely on God's strength, we are admitting that we don't have to carry everything alone. We're acknowledging that there is a power beyond us, an endless source of strength that never fails or grows weary. In life, we face struggles that can feel overwhelming, and it's in these moments that God's strength becomes our anchor. We may not understand why certain challenges come our way, but by leaning on His strength, we find the courage to keep going. It's a reminder that no matter how big the storm, we have a solid foundation to stand on. God's strength is not just a backup, it's the assurance that even when we can't handle something, He can. He is there, steady and unchanging, through every high and low. Relying on God's strength also means letting go of the illusion of control. So often we feel the need to manage every aspect of our lives, to plan every detail, and to make sure everything goes according to our own expectations. But life doesn't always follow our plans, and when things don't go our way, it's easy to feel defeated. By leaning on God, we learn to release the grip of control and trust that He knows what's best. This doesn't mean we stop trying or planning, but rather that we allow space for His guidance and power to work alongside our efforts. God's strength is perfect in our weakness. In moments when we feel inadequate, when we feel like we don't have what it takes, it's comforting to know that His strength is there to fill the gaps. We don't have to pretend to have it all together or hide our struggles. Instead, we can be honest with ourselves and with God. It's in our moments of vulnerability, in our honesty about our limitations, that His strength shines brightest. Our weakness becomes a doorway for His power to enter, transforming our inadequacies into something beautiful. Relying on God's strength brings peace in the face of uncertainty. Life is full of unknowns, and often we worry about things beyond our control. But when we lean on God, we find a calmness that doesn't depend on our circumstances. His strength is like a constant, quiet force that assures us we're held no matter what. It allows us to let go of the worry, to stop bracing for the worst, and instead to rest in the assurance that God's strength is carrying us through whatever lies ahead. When we rely on God's strength, we find resilience that goes beyond our natural capacity. Human strength can only take us so far. We tire, we lose patience, we sometimes want to give up. But God's strength is enduring and everlasting. It enables us to persevere, to push through the hard days and tough seasons with a fortitude that we couldn't muster on our own. This resilience is not about ignoring our struggles, but about knowing that we're equipped to handle them with His help. God's strength also transforms how we handle pain and disappointment. Life is full of heartbreaks, and we all face losses and setbacks that can leave us feeling broken. In these times, our own strength may fail us, but God's strength is a source of comfort and healing. It's a strength that holds us together when we feel shattered, reminding us that even in our brokenness, we are not abandoned. By leaning on Him, we allow His strength to heal us, to mend the pieces, and to bring us back to a place of wholeness. Relying on God's strength also empowers us to be a source of support for others. When we know that we are held by a power greater than ourselves, we can show up for others without feeling drained or overwhelmed. God's strength enables us to be present, to be patient, and to love others even when it's difficult. By drawing from His strength, we become vessels through which His love flows, reaching out to those around us in ways that we couldn't manage on our own. Choosing to rely on God's strength allows us to step into situations that might otherwise intimidate us. There are times when we're called to do things that feel beyond our abilities, whether it's stepping into a leadership role, confronting a difficult truth, or facing a personal challenge. On our own, we might hesitate or shrink back, but with God's strength, we can step forward boldly, knowing that we are not doing it alone. His power emboldens us to walk into the unknown with confidence and courage. Relying on God's strength gives us a sense of purpose that isn't dependent on our own capabilities. When we lean on Him, we begin to see our lives through His perspective. Our limitations don't define us, His strength within us does. We start to understand that we are part of something greater, that our lives have meaning beyond what we can accomplish on our own. Relying on God's strength transforms our journey, allowing us to live with a sense of purpose and fulfillment that goes beyond our own understanding. Praying for guidance is a practice that opens us up to wisdom beyond our own understanding. Every day we face choices, some small, others life-altering. And while we may try to make the best decisions, we recognize that our own insight is limited. When we pray for guidance, we're acknowledging that we need help to see the bigger picture, that we want to be led by a wisdom that knows the paths ahead, both the obstacles and the opportunities. It's a moment of humility and surrender, where we say, I trust that you know what's best for me. In prayer, we invite God to align our hearts and minds with His will. We all have our own dreams, ambitions, and ideas of what we think will bring us happiness. But when we seek guidance from God, we're expressing a desire to let go of our own plans, if necessary, and to walk in the path He has prepared for us. This isn't always easy. It requires us to loosen our grip on what we think we want. But in doing so, we open ourselves up to the fullness of what He has planned, which is often greater than anything we could envision. Praying for guidance also brings us a sense of peace in times of uncertainty. Life doesn't come with a manual, and there are moments when we simply don't know what to do. We may face difficult decisions, and the weight of them can feel overwhelming. In these moments, prayer becomes our refuge. By reaching out to God, we're reminded that we don't have to bear the burden of decision-making alone. Even if we don't receive an immediate answer, the act of praying for guidance calms our hearts and reassures us that we're not navigating life on our own. When we seek guidance in prayer, we're asking for clarity, a sense of direction in the midst of confusion. Life can be noisy, filled with distractions and conflicting voices that make it hard to hear what's truly right for us. But in prayer, we find a quiet space to tune in to God's voice. It's a space where the noise fades, where we can set aside our fears and listen with open hearts. This kind of clarity doesn't always come in words. Sometimes it's a feeling, a sense of peace about a certain choice, or a gentle nudge in a particular direction. Praying for guidance helps us build a deeper trust in God's plan for our lives. We might not always understand why certain doors close or why unexpected challenges come our way, but when we pray for His guidance, we're putting our faith in His wisdom. We're choosing to believe that He sees what we can't, that He knows what's best for us, even when we don't understand. This trust doesn't mean that we won't face challenges, but it gives us the confidence to move forward, knowing that we're walking in His light. Seeking guidance from God also cultivates patience within us. We live in a world that values quick answers and immediate results, but divine guidance often doesn't work on our timeline. When we pray for guidance, we're reminded that we may need to wait, that the answers won't always come right away. This waiting period teaches us patience and resilience as we learn to lean into God's timing rather than rushing ahead with our own. It's in this waiting that our character is shaped, our faith strengthened. When we pray for guidance, we open ourselves up to unexpected possibilities. God's plan for our lives often looks different from what we imagine, and by seeking His direction, we're making ourselves available for surprises along the way. We might be led down paths we hadn't considered, doors we hadn't noticed might open, and people we weren't expecting might come into our lives. In trusting His guidance, we become receptive to new opportunities and experiences that can lead us to places of growth, joy, and purpose. Praying for guidance also deepens our sense of connection to God. Each time we turn to Him, we're building a relationship, nurturing a bond of intimacy and trust. Guidance is not just about receiving answers, it's about drawing closer to the one who provides them. In seeking His wisdom, we're choosing to make Him a central part of our lives, to involve Him in our thoughts, our dreams, and our challenges. This relationship strengthens with every prayer allowing us to experience God's love and presence in a personal way. Praying for guidance shapes our perspective, helping us to see life through a lens of faith. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles, we start to see them as opportunities for growth. Instead of feeling lost in moments of uncertainty, we begin to see them as times to draw closer to God. This shift in perspective transforms how we approach life's ups and downs, allowing us to face each moment with a sense of purpose and resilience. Guidance becomes not just an answer to a question, but a way of walking through life with an open heart and a steady spirit. When we pray for guidance, we are strengthened to make decisions with courage and conviction. Life often requires us to make hard choices, and even when we know what we should do, it's not always easy to follow through. But in asking for God's guidance, we're not just seeking answers, we're asking for the strength to act on them. We're inviting Him to stand beside us, to give us the courage to make the right choices, even when they're difficult. This courage allows us to move forward with confidence, knowing that we are guided by a wisdom that is higher than our own. Embracing true protection is a journey of recognizing where our ultimate security lies. So often, we seek protection in things we can see and control: our jobs, relationships, routines, or possessions. These things make us feel secure, but when we place our sense of safety entirely in the temporary, we're left vulnerable to life's changes. True protection, however, is deeper. It's not something we can hold in our hands, but something we can anchor in our souls. It's the assurance that no matter what happens around us, we are held, guarded, and loved by a power far greater than anything in this world. To embrace true protection means understanding that it doesn't shield us from every difficulty or hardship, but it promises to hold us through them. Life comes with its share of storms, and sometimes we may feel like we're being tossed around by forces beyond our control. But when we place our trust in divine protection, we're reminded that we are never alone. This protection is not about a life free from challenges, but about a presence that remains with us, steady and unfailing, through every trial. It's knowing that, while we may feel pressed on all sides, we are never abandoned. True protection brings a peace that transcends understanding. It allows us to move through life with a quiet confidence, a calmness that doesn't depend on our external circumstances. When we embrace this protection, we're no longer living in a constant state of worry about the what-ifs and unknowns. We understand that while we can't see what tomorrow holds, we are safeguarded by a love that knows no limits. This sense of peace isn't the absence of conflict or struggle, it's the presence of an unshakable assurance that we are kept and watched over, no matter what comes our way. Embracing true protection also frees us from the need to control everything in our lives. We're all prone to try to manage our lives down to the smallest detail, thinking that if we just plan enough, we can avoid pain or misfortune. But true protection is about surrender, about releasing the grip we have on our own plans and trusting that there's a greater plan at work. This doesn't mean we stop being responsible or making wise choices, but it does mean that we stop relying solely on our own efforts. We let go of the need to foresee every twist and turn, trusting that we're held even when things don't go as expected. When we embrace true protection, we begin to understand the strength that lies in our vulnerability. The world often tells us to toughen up, to rely solely on our own strength, but true protection encourages us to lean on a strength that is not our own. It's about recognizing that we don't have to face everything alone, that we don't have to have it all together. This protection allows us to be honest about our fears and weaknesses, knowing that we're still held and loved. In our vulnerability, we find a deeper strength that comes from knowing that, even at our weakest, we are protected by a power beyond our comprehension. True protection is a source of resilience. When we embrace it, we're able to bounce back from life's setbacks with a strength that doesn't come from us. This protection doesn't eliminate life's difficulties, but it equips us to face them with a sense of purpose and fortitude. It gives us the ability to stand firm, even when we're knocked down, knowing that we're guarded by something far greater than our circumstances. This resilience isn't about being unbreakable, it's about knowing that we're protected, even when we're at our most fragile. To embrace true protection is also to find freedom from fear. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles to living fully, often holding us back from taking risks, forming relationships, or stepping out of our comfort zones. But when we understand that we are truly protected, fear begins to lose its grip on us. We begin to see that, even in the worst-case scenarios, we are not alone. We start to live with courage, knowing that no matter what happens, we are held in the shelter of divine care. This freedom allows us to step forward boldly, to take chances, and to live with open hearts. True protection shapes the way we interact with others. When we know that we are protected, we no longer feel the need to put up walls or push people away out of self-preservation. Instead, we're able to approach others with compassion and kindness, knowing that our safety and worth don't depend on how others treat us. We can love without fear of rejection, because our sense of security doesn't rest on human approval. This protection gives us the freedom to extend grace, to be generous, and to connect with others from a place of authenticity and trust. Embracing true protection teaches us to focus on what truly matters. When we stop seeking safety in temporary things, we begin to value the eternal. We start to see that our possessions, accomplishments, and even relationships, while important, are not the ultimate source of our security. We find ourselves drawn to things that nourish our soul, things that bring peace, joy, and purpose. This shift in focus brings us a deeper sense of fulfillment. As we invest in what cannot be taken away, our relationship with the divine, our character, and our impact on the lives of others. Embracing true protection allows us to face the unknown with hope. The future is always uncertain, and it's natural to feel a bit of anxiety about what lies ahead. But when we rest in the assurance of true protection, we're able to look toward the future with a sense of hope and expectancy. We may not know what tomorrow holds, but we know that we are protected by a love that will never fail us. This hope transforms how we approach each day, allowing us to live fully, love deeply, and step forward in faith, no matter what comes our way. Facing the day with boldness begins with a decision to step into each new morning with courage and purpose. Boldness is not just about outward confidence, it's an internal strength, a choice to meet whatever comes with resilience and a spirit of determination. Every day is an opportunity to stand firm in our values, to move forward even in the face of challenges, and to embrace life with all its uncertainties. This kind of boldness isn't about arrogance or self-importance. It's about having a humble confidence that we're equipped to handle what lies ahead, no matter how daunting it may seem. Starting the day with boldness means choosing to leave behind the fears and worries that weighed us down yesterday. It's a fresh start, a moment to shake off the doubts that creep in during the quiet moments. Boldness gives us the courage to acknowledge our fears without letting them control us. Instead of being paralyzed by what could go wrong, we focus on what we can achieve, what we can overcome. Every morning we have the choice to take that first step with a sense of bravery, even if it feels small. It's a daily act of faith to believe that we are stronger than we know, more capable than we often believe. Boldness in facing the day also means being willing to take risks, to step out of our comfort zones. Growth doesn't happen in safety, it happens when we push ourselves to try something new, to approach challenges with an open mind and a courageous heart. Facing the day with boldness means we're not afraid to make mistakes because we know that each step forward, even the stumbles, teaches us something valuable. It's about embracing the unknown, knowing that we have the strength to handle both the successes and setbacks that come our way. This willingness to take risks brings us closer to the person we're meant to become. When we face the day with boldness, we choose to stand up for ourselves and our values. The world is filled with opinions, pressures, and influences that can sometimes push us in directions we don't want to go. But boldness gives us the resolve to stay true to ourselves, to walk in integrity, even when it's not the easiest path. It empowers us to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, and to stand up for what we believe in. This inner strength is not about aggression, it's about having a peaceful confidence in who we are and what we stand for, knowing that we're anchored in something unshakable. Boldness is also about having the courage to be vulnerable. Facing the day with boldness doesn't mean pretending to have it all together or hiding our struggles. True boldness is found in the willingness to be open, to let others see our authentic selves. It's about sharing our joys and our challenges without fear of judgment, knowing that our worth isn't determined by what others think. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we inspire others to do the same. This boldness creates a ripple effect, building connections and fostering a community where people can feel safe to be themselves. Facing the day with boldness also means approaching our responsibilities with enthusiasm and dedication. Each day brings tasks that need to be done, commitments that need our focus. Boldness gives us the energy to tackle these responsibilities with a sense of purpose, seeing them not as burdens but as opportunities to make a difference. It's about putting our best effort into everything we do, from the smallest tasks to the biggest challenges. When we approach our work and commitments with boldness, we infuse them with meaning, knowing that our efforts, however small they may seem, contribute to a larger purpose. Boldness in the face of life's unpredictability is a source of strength and stability. Each day brings its own set of surprises, some welcome and others less so. But when we face the day with boldness, we're prepared to handle whatever comes our way. We may not control what happens, but we control how we respond. Boldness allows us to navigate life's twists and turns with a steady heart, confident that we have what it takes to adapt, to learn, and to grow. This courage gives us the resilience to keep going, even when the path ahead is unclear, knowing that every experience shapes us in meaningful ways. Facing the day with boldness means making a conscious choice to focus on the positive, even when negativity surrounds us. It's easy to get caught up in the challenges, to dwell on what's wrong or what's missing. But boldness shifts our perspective, allowing us to see the possibilities rather than the limitations. This doesn't mean ignoring the difficulties, but choosing to look for the silver lining, to find gratitude in even the smallest blessings. Boldness gives us the strength to cultivate a mindset of hope and optimism, empowering us to lift ourselves and others with our positive outlook. Boldness is about showing kindness and compassion, even in a world that can sometimes feel harsh. It takes courage to be kind, to choose empathy over judgment, and to extend grace to others. Facing the day with boldness means we're not afraid to lead with love, to treat others with respect and understanding. This boldness is rooted in strength, not weakness. It's the kind of strength that sees beyond differences, that values each person as they are. When we choose to approach others with kindness, we create a ripple effect of positivity that extends far beyond ourselves. Facing the day with boldness means trusting that we are equipped for whatever lies ahead. It's a confidence that comes from knowing we have the tools within us to overcome challenges, to achieve our goals, and to make a meaningful impact. This boldness isn't about relying solely on our own strength, but trusting that we're supported in ways that go beyond what we can see. Each morning we step forward with a heart full of courage, ready to embrace whatever the day brings, knowing that with boldness we can face anything that comes our way.